Welcome. You're listening to the I'm Wired to Inspire podcast, creatively engineered by Nicole, the inspiration specialist. I'm Wired to Inspire is a powerfully packed 5-minute podcast filled with inspiration and encouragement to get you through your day. It's designed to inspire you to live your authentic purpose. Now stay tuned for your host, Nicole, the inspiration specialist, on today's episode of I'm Wired to Inspire.
Hey everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today on my podcast. It is day 3 of the healing experience, and this month we are talking about childhood. We are talking about the things that may have plagued you in your childhood that you may have knowingly or unknowingly brought with you into adulthood. So just to get you guys caught up real quick, you guys, on yesterday, we asked the question, was the harm caused by someone who was broken themselves? And on Monday, we asked simply what happened. And when we asked the question what happened, it wasn't the simple answer of, describing the experience. But I talk about the difference between repeating the story and then actually telling what happened. Because believe it or not, it's two different things. And many times we can repeatedly tell a story over and over and over again, but we're not realizing that we're not healed from it. We think because we talk about it, we may share it, we may transcribe it, we may put it in a book, we may put it on a song, we may do all of these things that feel cathartic, but is the healing really taking place just because you let it out? And sometimes you have to let things out, but then once you let something out, you also have to heal. It's just like when a woman is pregnant, she has to have that baby, and once she lets the baby out, okay, the pregnancy part is over, but the doctor says she can't even have sex. She cannot do things for the next 6 months. For the next 6 weeks, because her body has to heal. So just because you let something out, it does not necessarily mean that, it's over and it's done. So that's what we were talking about so far this week, and really trying to get to the bottom of that thing, y'all, because let me tell y'all something. We're in a time right now where the enemy wants nothing more but to keep us down. He wants nothing more but to make us think that we are not good enough as we are and who we are. He does not want us to understand who God is on the maximum level. He wants us to continue to settle. He wants to achieve success and get accolades. He wants us to have a regular rudimentary life. He wants us to have, success career. You see what I'm saying? I'm naming things from the top to the bottom. Okay, he wants you to have all of these different things, and he wants to make them seem like everything is okay. But many of us are operating on a low level. We talk about we don't want mediocrity, but many of us are living a mediocre life, and we don't even realize it because so many other things are moving, so many other things are functioning. Now, let me tell you, that does not take away from the things you've acquired, the things that you've done successfully, not at all. But what we're talking about this week with childhood is there anything hidden? Is there anything in you that has kept you from excelling even greater? Excelling even on a higher level, on a deeper level, because what we don't understand is once we experience an offense, especially as a child, and that thing is not dealt with, is not nipped in the bud, is not talked about, you don't get help for it. When that thing festers, we begin to make decisions based on that thing, and that becomes who we are. When in actuality, it might be something else. Now, I'm just thinking of something. I want you guys to make sure, if you have not, get caught up. In January, we talked about process. In February, we talked about heartbreak. But something about today is reminding me about the process. Now, this whole thing with process and childhood, they have some very similar elements that I would like to highlight. And again, I think it would be advantageous for you to go back and listen to it, because I think when you start to compare the notes and look at them both independently and together, you'll see how the footprint is the same. Okay. And what I mean by that is I was explaining in the process part of the experience that, many times, we may have experienced emoting or expressing ourselves, on some type of an emotional level. You know what I'm saying? And for whatever reason, maybe our caregiver, our teacher, or whoever was responsible for us at the time may have told us that how we reacted to something was not the right way. You may have been somebody who was super emotional, and maybe you didn't express that the way they thought. Maybe they thought you should have been doing more. You may have been a little boy or a little girl, and you might have been crying, and they may have told you to stop your whining, or, stop making a noise. It could be so many different things. And then you adapted that way of processing things because at that moment, it was embedded in you that how you expressed yourself and your process was wrong. And that's why we have to unlearn those things, because many times we grow up emotionally unstable and we can't keep a relationship, or certain things just keep happening over and over and over again. In my case, I was just always super defensive. It just didn't even make any sense. And I'm like, why do I feel so insecure? Why do I feel so defensive? But again, we learn things over time. And when these things are not addressed properly, we begin to live in turmoil, and we don't even realize that's what we're doing. So that's why I wanted to bring that up, because very much like the process and unlearning some of the things that you've learned that were wrong about how you process things, and really getting back to, no, this is the way God made me. This is what came out. This is who I am. The fact that you have to get back to that reminds me of this with your childhood, because what you begin to understand is there are some things that, because of whatever the situation was, everybody has their own variables, but whatever those things were, it caused you to adapt and become this person that God may not want you to be. You may not have been called to be this person that you're operating in right now, but because as a child, things happen to you in such a way, you have cultivated this new way of being, and this is what you're doing. But, it's interesting because you find with many people, they tell you there's something on the inside. You hear this a lot with successful people, like they may have had a tough upbringing and they became successful because they took the things that were thrown at them and they really created a new life. But then you start to find that beneath the surface, there are other things going on. And even though they've created a new life and they've changed the way the narrative would be for their own lives, they still struggle, because even though that stuff happened to them, it doesn't go away. And my thing with this whole entire experience is this is not to talk about it forever and to keep making it a hot topic. No, because we still have to learn how to grow, and we still have to learn how to move on and to really take these things and push forward past them. But at the same time, y'all, we have to remember that all of these things add up to the totality of who we have become and who God wants us to be. So for some of you, you're going to be listening to this and you're going to have a new epiphany, and God is going to give you something new to do with your life, because you're going to be uncovering things. And this is what you want. Again, this is not to create a bunch of drama and to get you upset and to get you sad and to turn and for this thing to turn into some big crazy thing. No, of course not. But this is a time to heal, because y'all, listen, the enemy likes to hide things. That's why the Bible has several scriptures about revealing hidden things that are in the dark, things that you don't know about, that are laying right beneath the surface. This is why it is so important for you to make sure that you give yourself a fighting chance. Give yourself a chance to get past, I'm not dealing with that. That's over. I'm not thinking about that. Give yourself a chance to stop compartmentalizing things and putting things away. Listen, it's good to compartmentalize at times when you're focused on one thing and you don't need that to be a bother. But listen, you can't compartmentalize things and then leave it there. That's what a lot of us have done with our childhood. We just left it there, and we don't realize it's spilling over into our children because it's not addressed. We think because we've done the opposite of what was done to us, we think because we've moved on, then good, we've won. Sure, you may have won in one aspect of it, but maybe the things you haven't healed, you might be putting that same energy into your children. Now, you may have stopped it for yourself, but because it's still deeply embedded and it's still not addressed, it can be coming out in your students if you're a teacher. It can be coming out in your friendships and your relationships. I'm telling you, defense was always the thing for me. Being super defensive, that was always the thing, because it would just come out in my friendships. It would just come out in